What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Restoration Rundown podcast. This is the podcast that's dedicated to you, the restoration business owner. My name is Ben Riccardi with Ironclad Restoration Marketing, and we provide expert digital marketing services just for you, the restoration contractor. Today's episode is a good one because it's so important. And we're going to be talking about your reputation. And no, not your reputation with your friends or at school or your guys you go play softball with after work. No, we're talking about your online reputation and how important it is to have not only an impeccable reputation, but to be able to manage and oversee that reputation, and specifically talking about Google reviews. And who better to bring on than my friend, Zach Garrett from Liftify, who specializes in just that, helping you out with your online reputation and so much more. Zach, listen, I know you're so busy. I really appreciate your time, and so does everybody that's watching or listening to this. How's it going?
It's going well. Thanks for having me, Ben.
Great, man. I appreciate your time. So for anybody that missed, Zach's been on once or twice. We've talked to him live out at the Core conference last year, and we've had him on the podcast and just shared so much information and knowledge. And we love having this value-based content coming on here, Zach. So again, I can't say enough how much I appreciate you coming on here. But for anybody that's missed it, give us a little background about yourself and more so about Liftify and what you guys are doing.
Yeah. So background on me, very different path to this than maybe a traditional tech company. I spent the first 7 years of my career in a Fortune 1000 company, working my way up the marketing and specifically digital marketing, and ended up leading their digital marketing and customer experience. They called it their digital transformation, but it was kind of a hybrid of digital marketing and also digital tools and customer experience. And how do we marry those two things? So I was doing that in a Fortune 1000 large organization. And in my own life, had the experience of we had a couple things go wrong in our house. And I immediately just pulled out my phone and started just Googling and went to Google Maps and said roofer or plumber or whatever it was, and just started reading reviews and was just surprised by the lack of consistent reviews from people. And so I knew some of the tech stuff and had done that and just had this question, like, why don't local companies do this better? I think everyone now uses the search to find companies or at least vet them, and they read ratings and reviews. It's part of our buying decision and everything we do. And I just did not see a few years ago local companies doing this well. And so we started very modestly and just kind of on the side, meeting with local business owners, asking them, hey, do reviews matter to you? Do you want more reviews? And all of them said, yes, absolutely. We would love more reviews for our business. And so my next question was, well, why don't you get them? It was the next question. It was really kind of boiled down to two things, Ben. It was either one, we're really focused on these internal survey loops, net promoter score, any kind of internal feedback loops, or we've tried softwares and different platforms. There's some big, names in this space. Yep. And it just hasn't returned anything. It's super expensive. I have to do it, and it's just not working great. And so to make a long story short, we started just literally working side by side with business owners, figure out how to do this really well, how to take it off their plate completely, and how to drive tremendous results in bringing them more reviews from their active customers. And from that, I would love to tell you I had this grand vision of what it was going to turn into, but really it was just, hey, can we drive some reviews? I think this matters. And what started to happen is the more reviews and the higher the rating got, the more consistent they got, their rankings on Google started to increase organically. Yeah. They started getting more calls. Their conversion rate started to go up, and we started to get referred to other people. And so we thought, man, there's something really here. This is a big gap in the marketplace today, and we're going to go for it. So that was 3 years ago. We were just a handful of locations, just testing some things. Today, we have over 1,000 businesses that we work with all across North America, a lot in the trades, tons in restoration, but also in other verticals like automotive, financial services as well. Just really helping people build a stronger online reputation. But why our business is called Liftify is that really what we want is everything we do, we want them to lift the business. We want to lift them in their rankings, lift them in just their reputation as a whole as a business, and then lift their leads and lift their team and all the great work that they're doing. And so that's what we're all about, is just highlighting and lifting up those local businesses and really helping them tell the great story of the work they do.
Yeah, that's great. And one of the reasons that I love, speaking with you and I've learned so much just from our small conversations that we've had here and there. But I want to take a step back to the genesis of this whole Google review thing, because as you know as well as I do, especially with the service businesses, whether you're a plumber, restoration contractor, roofer, a mobile mechanic, whatever the case may be, back in the day, and I guess we can say that it was only a few years ago, your Google business profile or Google My Business or Google Plus or Google Places, whatever they've iteration of it is that you set up your account. Typically, somebody would set the account up and just leave it alone, right? They've got another directory listing there and it's great. They'll get a review. Maybe the first couple of weeks they have all their aunts and uncles leave them reviews, and then you have nothing there. And it used to not affect the I want to say bottom line, but just more about your organic results and your SEO. It wasn't affecting your maps rankings. It was part of the buyer's journey, right? You're talking about conversions at that point where people can look at your reviews. If they're good, there's a good chance they're going to call you. But now it's so much more than that. Can you walk us through kind of from that stages to now where we are now in 2024 with the anti-spam stuff and all the AI prevalence that's happening right now? Not to go too far into the weeds, because I want to spread this out a little bit with a few more questions that I have, but maybe start from the beginning to kind of hammer home anybody that hasn't been listening to this or reading or staying in tune, how much more important they are than they used to be and why.
Yeah, great question. So I'll boil it down to this. Marketing used to be what you said about your brand.
Yes.
You can do traditional marketing. You tell the market about what it is like to work with your company. And that power has completely shifted to the consumer.
Yeah.
Your customers now hold the power to tell the story about your business. So one, you better be great at doing the work that you do, because if you don't do good work, people are going to know about it, right? But if you do good work, and a lot of the businesses we work with do, you have to be great at sharing that with people as well and telling them that. So, that power dynamic has really shifted over the last 5 years. And it's because in our online buying experience with things like Amazon to local restaurants to now, Google, consumers crave and demand peer validation, right?
Yeah.
They want to understand have other people's experience been with this product or service before I buy it. And so you just have to first recognize that there's been a huge transformation in the way that people buy and look for a company. They're not looking at your advertising necessarily. And even if they do, that's fine, but they're going to validate that, right?
Yeah.
And that validation for them is ratings and reviews. And so, and the reason why it's on Google is that's where people are searching, right? 90% of home service searches start on a Google search, right? So it could be different in the future. And so it doesn't really matter if it's Google or anywhere else. I think it's most important to understand the world has just changed and you don't control the message anymore. The places that people look to see peer validation, that controls the message now. So wherever people are going to validate or find your product or services, you have to look really great there. And so because of that trend of consumers craving that feedback, or peer validation, companies like Google have really prioritized these things like ratings and reviews, right? It's so influential in the search and stuff because that's what the Google consumer wants, right? Google's trying in the business of making their consumers have what they want to quickly get answers. And that is a huge part of it today. And so that's why it's changed so much. It's not because it was even Google's idea, right? It's a broader consumer trend on just, hey, I want to see what other people say about something before I buy from it. And so Google's meeting that need through ratings and reviews. And I think I'm obviously biased in this, Ben, but I think it's the lowest hanging fruit for any business. Like marketing is hard. Getting new customers is hard. Having your happy customers tell the great experience they had with you should be the easy part.
Yeah. And it's not, you're right. And that's why a lot of people get turned off. And traditionally they're like, listen, I've tried, I can't get it. And we'll get into the nuances of the restoration industry, because that's a whole different animal when it comes to getting reviews, just because of the whole process of a loss. But I want to take a step back too, and reiterate something that you mentioned for people that are listening. You have to pay attention. The attention costs money, right? But now that's not enough. Now, once you have the attention, and then now the 2024 buyer's journey, and for the last 5 years, they're going to vet you out. And it used to be they would check out your social media profiles, right? They'll check your Facebook out. Are you active? Do you have an Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, whatever's relevant to your business? But then we have this space there, one of the Google properties that is now completely and unequivocally tied and married to your organic search results and your map search results, which are the bread and butter of a service area business. So when we talk about attention versus conversions, it used to be good reviews and social proof like that. Somebody else talking about how great you were great for conversions. Conversions are free. Traffic costs money. But now they're tied hand in hand. So it's almost a non-starter if you don't have your Google business profile. And we are going to talk a lot about Google business for everybody that's out there listening. You might have some people out there that are preferential to Bing or Ask Jeeves, or maybe one of those Lycos, one of those old search engines.
Well,
but the reality is,
let me hit on that. Let me hit on
yeah,
that, Ben, because I think even in the last 3 years, right, there's been a lot of consolidation in this. So even when we got started, people wanted a recommendation on Facebook, and they wanted their Yelp reviews to look good, and they wanted their Google reviews. Last year, over 75% of all reviews posted online around a local business were on Google. And that is up 25% year over year. And so the rate at which companies are doing this, and Google is basically winning, is what I'm trying to say there. Those other platforms are becoming just a directory listing. It's fine to have those. But if you want to win, you've got to win on Google, because 90% of people are there. Reviews are growing at a rate of 25% a year posted on that platform. So companies are getting it. So you either are going to get on board and you're going to win, or you're going to get left behind. There's really no middle ground.
You'll be the guy still on MySpace that's saying he's coming back. No, you have to adapt.
I'm too young to ever have had a MySpace. So I
had one. I had some of my preferential friends, and then I was anti-Facebook for a long time. My younger brother was a college bound, and he was raving about it when it first came out. I'm like, no, I don't need that. MySpace has got everything. Same thing. I still got some Blockbuster videos I got to return. So I guess I'm still one of those guys. But to reiterate your point even more, Google, that's astounding that 75% of posted reviews are on Google. That's something's working. But more so, we do get the question a lot, hey, we need to optimize for Bing and all these other things, but people need to understand that Google's search algorithms and their search standards and what they're looking for are on such a high level that typically they translate. We see them translating to these other search engines as well anyway. So if I think over 92% of people are utilizing Google as a search engine versus the other, they have the lion's share. I think as of July last year, it was 92.5%.
Yeah, if you're a local business owner, look, you've got to fire the bullets at what can give you the most value, right? So most of the time I will tell people, look, you need to fire your bullets at Google. And if you win and you're at the top of every search and you've just got too much demand that you can control, fine. You're going to have the resources to go do the secondary platforms.
Yes.
But don't get distracted and try to do 10 things at once. Do one thing really well first.
Yeah. And that's true it's funny that philosophically it's true with everything in your business. You've got to get really good at it. And then you move on to the next. And if you're spreading listen, not everybody has an unlimited marketing dollar. If you do have an unlimited marketing dollar, give me or Zach a call and we can make sure that we get you up there. But in most cases, you don't. And so we want to make sure that we're weaponizing and strategically kind of focusing on what is going to get you the best ROI. And like you said, Zach, great point. Once you get that perfect, which is never, it's probably one of the most unachievable things because of how many times they update the algorithm and how search changes and how consumers change. Then you can work on these other secondary platforms like dancing on TikTok or something to get reviews or things like that. So I appreciate those statistics. That's news to me. The 75% up 25% year over year is incredible. But it really just validates the type of work that you're doing and how important it is. So when it comes to search, there's a couple issues and the nuances, and I said I'd get back to this with restorers. Some of the common problems, and I wanted you to walk us through just because I think it'll resonate with people that listen to this, why people are so reluctant to either implement some sort of process to get the reviews. And, the easy one is they're afraid to get a bad one, which I'm going to let you address it because you do it perfectly. But there are some other nuances that I want you to go over with reviews. So in regards to the difficulty of getting them, or maybe the apprehension people have of getting the reviews, can you walk us through some of those issues, and then maybe your way of how we can kind of steer them in a direction to get them back on board to getting them?
Yeah, so I'll give a couple real examples of. There's a restoration company we're working with right now. I will leave them nameless. Large company, multi-location. They have anchored most of their business on Net Promoter Score for the last 10 plus years. It's how they incentivize their team. They read everyone. They've built it into their culture. And the good part of that is they really care about what their customers say about them, right? And they've learned a lot and they've gotten better from that. And we're not against that. We think you have to do a blend of that, right? But they've so over-indexed on it and they just badger the customer to death on that part that they get a bunch of 10s and they sacrifice all of those positive feedback comments being on Google, right? So they're taking all those votes and it looks great in their internal dashboard. So I'll give you a couple real metrics. They have a mold and water score. They look at it by their job type. That is a 90 NPS on those two specific areas. That's a phenomenal NPS score. You know, that means that almost every one of your customers ever is happy with you. They are stuck with those being internally and they need to get those online. And it's a struggle to kind of change the culture around it. So if you are one of those companies that has done net promoter score or internal surveying, that's great. We have a methodology to incorporate that, but do it differently. So that you can get those customers that are really happy and mostly happy all the time onto Google first. I won't get into too much of that strategy. We can talk about that, separately. But this idea of, hey, you've got to change the way that you've always functioned because the market has changed. That's a huge barrier, for a lot of people, Ben, that have been doing this, especially larger restoration companies or companies in general that have built these into their processes, because it means that they've got to change how they coach their team, how they look at metrics, right? And it's a shift, but it's a shift that they've got to make. And this company's making it, but it's kind of a whole company like rollout of saying, hey, we're not just going to only focus internally anymore. We're going to try to get all of our happy customers online to vote for us. And we're going to factor that into what we're doing. And we're also going to continue to try to get feedback through surveys to try to figure out how we can get better. And so we help brands move through that shift and really modernize or digitalize their business into what it looks like today to win. So that would be number one. I would say, a lot of companies face that. It's just change is hard. Doing it differently is a process. And we help people do that. I think secondly, to your point is, I don't want a bad review, and I'm willing to gate. I'm willing to not ask people. I would rather not have any reviews. Just please don't ever give me a 1-star review. Right. And the problem is those happen organically anyway. Right. So what you're really doing with that is you are underrepresenting yourself online. When you don't ask for public reviews, you are underrepresented online. You're going to get some negative bad ones, especially on recon jobs or things you can't control, right? In the restoration space, it is going to happen. So our kind of counter to that is, look, you have to play offense and be really great about getting reviews from your happy customers. And so we've got a methodology to do that. And, overall, Ben, I think a lot of businesses, they would love to be a 5.0 and never get a bad review. And I think that is a fallacy. You need to be at like a 4.5 to 4.9 kind of company that has some things people want to see what goes wrong. 75% of people also read review responses from businesses, right? So people read the responses, and you've done it in your own life, Ben. You've been considering a product or service, and you go and you filter it to the negative reviews, right? And you want to see what people, how they responded, really. And they can identify crazy and different things. So don't be afraid of that. That's going to happen sometimes. But what you also need is the vast majority of people, and especially recent ones, to say, yes, this was a great brand. I like them. We're going to continue moving forward with them because I trust them, because they've done this work and it's been recently. And so I always tell people, look, you can be a company that has 10 reviews this year at 5 stars, and that's not really going to help your company as much, even though it feels okay. I would rather you be at 100 reviews and have 90 to 95 5-star reviews in a few that went south. And that's going to help you much more in search, much more with your marketing, and help you look much more authentic and much more like a live company that people want to work with. And so you've got an alternative. If you're too afraid of getting a bad review, recognize that you are sacrificing 10 times the amount of good reviews for that, and at least have that conversation with yourself. And, we would challenge people to recognize every day that you do that, you're making a bad business decision and investing in the wrong thing. You can't operate in fear. You've got to operate in opportunity. And there's an opportunity in the restoration space right now to win in this by asking and getting your customers to leave you great reviews.
Yeah. And if that's not enough for you, if you're afraid to get reviews, this is costing you money, not just in the conversions that you're missing out on, but if you're running LSA right now, if you are spending money on search engine optimization with an agency or pay-per-click, you are missing out. You're watering down any gasoline, and you're really setting up your agency for failure at the end of the day if you cannot develop those processes. And that's why we recommend everybody to go to Liftify. Because the reality is, when we bring in a new client or we're talking to people out there that have been struggling with them, it's really hard to implement these processes and get them to do that and really focus, because the big picture of marketing, you kind of have to be, I always talk about being omnipresent. You kind of have a lot going on, right? And you have to be in the mind frame to say, this is something that we can do. It's Google Business Profile is free. You're already going out there doing the work for your customers. And if you're doing like what you said, the best thing that I thought of is you're just allowing all the crazy people to leave you 1-star reviews, or your competition to leave you 1-star reviews with no rebuttals, with no 5-star reviews. Because a guy like me I'm going to go look at your negative reviews because I'm looking at the overall experience in working with your company. If you have 300 5-star reviews, that's not really doing me much. I'm going to get banner blindness and I'm going to move on. But if you have a few 10, 20, 30 out of there that are 1-star, you can usually filter through them. And if you're responding appropriately, if somebody just leaves you a 1-star without any kind of context, and there's a way to respond to that properly to position yourself as in a much better place. Or if somebody had a bad experience, you have a thread of you solving their problem for them and kind of coming to some sort of amicable end, versus just a ton of great reviews. Hey, we're the best company out there everywhere, no matter what. Nobody's ever had a bad experience with us, because Google wants authenticity. They want authenticity in your content, and they want authenticity in your reviews and how you respond to them. Because again, like you mentioned before, they're all about serving up the most relevant, pertinent results to their user base as possible when they're looking for somebody or something online.
Yeah. And if I can give a quick sports analogy, too many companies are only playing defense. If you're playing a basketball game, you can, and you're driving on the court, you're making some stops, right? Every once in a while, somebody's going to make a shot, right? It's like playing defense with your review game. Every once in a while, an organic customer is going to leave you a bad review, or somebody you didn't even work with, but they thought the quote was too high or whatever. And you can't win the game if you're only playing defense. You have to drive the ball down the court and go shoot and score some of the great jobs that you have. You can't win by just hopefully swatting away most of the bad stuff. Like, you've got to go take the great work that you do and go score.
Yeah, you're always working from the negative in that regard. I mean, and it's crazy. Think about this. I've seen reviews from clients of people that they were speeding on the highway. Like, oh, I passed one of your trucks and you were speeding. Yeah. Like, and you get a 1-star review. Good luck getting that person to remove it. So having 200 or 300 5-stars about your business and responded well to are going to negate that kind of stuff. And it's always been the case. It's just so much more important now in the grand scheme of your digital marketing efforts and even your traditional marketing efforts. And then from a conversion perspective, it is. And one of the things that we spoke about before, when it comes to restores, and I know you have a solution for this, is there's a lot of different stages of the project too. So developing these systems and coming in with a game plan. Let's go back to the sports analogy. There's not one professional sports or even little league sports. You have kids. I got a son that's playing all kinds of sports. They all have a plan. You have playbook, you have a plan of action, how you're going to attack it, and you have a goal and what you're going to achieve. If you just have one of those things and you're not implementing all three, you're not going to get anywhere. So plan it out. I know there's a million reasons why you can stop and not do the reviews, but I think that the benefits in this case, in most cases, far outweigh the negative when it comes to getting your reputation in order online. Are there any things that you can share specific to the restoration industry? And I know without spilling the beans or any trade secrets, but how you're helping restorers overcome not just the two that we spoke about, but the different stages of the project, maybe when it comes to planning it out and how you're going to address that moving on right in the initiation of a project.
Yeah, well, I think there was 2 options before, and now we've added a third. I think option 1 is just try to manually get your guys in the field to do it, right?
Yeah.
At the end of a job, whenever the customer's happiest, try to get them to do it. And that'll work to some extent. You can do that. I think option 2 has always been, you just buy an out-of-the-box software, you set it up and run it, and it's not really specific to restoration, or has any factoring of the projects or the types or different things. And then option 3 of what we've developed is really a customized solution that really looks at your industry, looks at the kinds of jobs you're doing, and looks at the timing of those on when customers are happiest, and automates the process of getting reviews from happy customers, right? And so I think what, the difference between what we're doing and what a standard out of the box solution is we understand the restoration space, and we've built it, and we'll kind of even build a strategic game plan with each customer after looking at their data and say, okay, here's the game plan that we're going to run. Here's things we can automate. Here's things that are more complex that you can do later. So without getting into the details, the root of it is, look, you've got to ask the customer for a review at the moment they're happiest. Typically that's earlier in a job than later in a job, what I've learned from this space. And so we want to make that as easy as possible and try to automate that through the CRM or system that they're using, and feel like we've got a good secret sauce around doing that that's performing at a really high level. But even if you're doing it on your own, think about, don't overcomplicate it. When is the customer happiest? You need to get a review from them at that moment, however you're doing it. And if you work with a company like Liftify, we can make that process easy.
Yeah, and I think there's even more benefit than what you guys even are looking at on the surface with this, because what I mentioned before was the planning stage and having this plan of attack, this plan of action, your playbook, if you will, and seeing that there's so many different stages of different remediation jobs out there. You've got guys that just do mold testing, you've got guys that just do remediation, and you've got reconstruction stage. So figuring it out internally when you think that customer is going to be at their happiest without stepping on toes and asking for review is impeccable. We always tell our guys outside, the ones that, maybe aren't qualified to be in a Liftify situation yet, or just maybe aren't ready to take that step, that's the advice we give them: when they're the happiest, right when you're wrapped up, right when they're moving, if you're reconstruction, right when you're relieving, pulling the HGTV reveal of their brand new kitchen or bathroom or brand new house that you fixed after a fire. That's when you need to strike when the iron's hot, and you'll have a better chance of getting those reviews, because people are a lot less motivated, I feel, or it used to be the case, to leave a good review. When you're mad, when something pisses you off and you've had a bad experience at a restaurant, that's like most people, the first thing they're going to do when they walk out the door is get on Google and leave a terrible review. So we know that it's an uphill battle, but it just, the glory that you get at the top of this hill when you climb it and really build these processes for your company are just unmatched right now. And it's such an intricate part of everything you do. So if you're listening to this, you're spending money with a marketing agency, or you've got a whole marketing team, and you're struggling with the reviews, and you've kind of put your head in the sand about it, and you just think it's going to be, you're going to be, at some point, you're going to be very sorry that you didn't implement these processes right off the bat. It's really cool to hear that you guys now have such an intuitive process now for these different stages, and really working with clients on when the best time to strike, and kind of coaching people into doing that. And at the end of the day, as entrepreneurs, business owners, automation is key. You want to automate as many of these processes as possible. So you guys, bring a ton of value to the table for these companies, from even just talking through these couple things that we spoke about. So last but not least, how do we get in touch with you, Zach? How do these guys get started? What are some things that they need to have in order maybe before? Because we want to make sure that, we're qualified to be able to afford a reputation management company and things like that. So walk us through your processes. I'm going to go ahead. I know I asked you how we get in touch with you. I'm going to go ahead and scroll your website URL on the bottom here, so you guys can see if you're watching on YouTube. It's a very long URL. Be careful not to misspell it or anything like that. It's just,
yeah,
anyway,
Liftify.com. You can schedule a demo live with somebody on our team. We can walk you through it. I think some qualifiers for not just working with us, but having success with us. We want all of our customers to have success, right? So I think number one, you need to have a Google business profile already set up and, there and alive. I also think you need to be doing at least 10 jobs a month. Typically, if you're only doing a couple jobs a month, I don't mean this facetiously, but go beg every customer, for a review. You're on the site, just go do it until you get to that point. So you don't want to be doing 10 jobs a month. And then I think you need a system that we can integrate with and play with well. So we've got, a series of restoration softwares, applications, a Rolodex of ones that we can integrate with and plug our game plan into to drive your success. And so you need to have some kind of CRM, our system that you're running on. And we can talk about the integration. But if you're still doing stuff off spreadsheets or, different things internally, you don't have that CRM yet, you might not be ready. But for most companies, Ben, they've got those things, right? They need, they need leads. And the reality is, our softwares, depending on your volume and your size, $200 to $300 a month in price. And for a restorer, if they could get one job a year, it would be a great ROI. Right. And the reality is they're probably missing out on jobs a month based on it. So the cost is not overbearing. The cost is low. It's just getting the right things set up and then letting us execute and seeing the results.
And I lied at the end when I said this is last but not least, because I have something really important that I wanted to run by you and kind of get your insight into. And this is something that's popping up everywhere. AI, Skynet, Terminator is about to happen. We're getting taken over by robots. But AI. And I know the last time we spoke on here, you guys were getting ready. You guys were implementing some AI software. Can you speak a little bit about that before we wrap this up? And maybe, talk about some new things that Liftify has coming up, because I know that you guys definitely do. If you're staying in tune with everything that's happening and all the changes that are going on with AI and Google search.
Yeah. So I think in general, AI, it makes it easier to do things, right? It
Mm-hmm.
automates doing things, and it's going to make it easier for companies to make content and do different things. So our theory is that Google will figure all that out, and if people are pumping 10 blog posts a day or, whatever, the
Right.
different
Right.
things people are doing, Google always wins in the end and
Yep.
figures it out. That real authentic content, like a review from a real Google user, is going to become even more valued because
Yeah.
there's a lot of junk out there, and Google will prioritize and value on the front end when people are finding you real authentic content, because you can't fake a review. You can't AI make reviews. They have to be Google users. Google is very strict on their spam.
Yeah.
They're very good at removing it, right? So I think the whole AI kind of trend from a marketing perspective actually makes reviews even more important because it's authentic content, and authentic content is going to win. We
Yes.
believe that. We're placing a bet on that. Within our platform, we do have some AI tools that is making the life easier of our customers. So, two key areas I'll throw out that we've implemented that has helped. Number one is review responding. So, everyone hates responding to their reviews. You should do it. Consumers look at it, but man, sitting down there with a blank one every time is a bummer.
Yeah.
So, we've got AI integrated into our platform now where it can just suggest a response. You can generate it, you can review it before you post it, but it tries to pull in keywords and different things about what the customer said, and it's really good. It can also help with those negative reviews from people who want to be emotional in their
Yeah.
response,
Yeah.
putting a very professional lens. So I would say it can cut down on your review responding time by 90%. It's a dramatic improvement in the time it takes to respond to all of your reviews. So that would be number one. I think the other thing that we're getting into and looking at is finding ways to use AI to digest the comments and really do theming around them, identify what is this issue. Is it customer success or service? Is it, lead time? Is it product? What are people saying when they're not happy or when they're happy? And how do we deduce that and bring that up to the business in a clear and easier way so that they can improve their business as a whole?
No, that's awesome. And I did get a chance to check out when you guys were in beta, I think, for your responses, and it was really, really cool. I mean, like snap of a finger, instantaneous, really great responses to reviews. One last question in regards to that, because it's something that I've been pondering over for a while. With the prevalence of AI, do you see any changes maybe coming down the pipeline of Google to where we are going to have video testimonials that are going to be incorporated into that at all? Because that's one thing that we talk to our clients about when it comes to content generation. You're spitting out blogs using AI or city pages or whatever it is for your website. I mean, AI can do quite a bit right now. I feel, and what I've talked to people about, is getting more comfortable creating video content that's authentic, about your own company, video about each one of your services. But do you see any need, or not need, I guess, do you see anything where video might be something that pops up in the future when it comes to this reputation management process?
Yeah, it certainly could. So, I mean, last year, a couple years ago, Google added the picture icon, so when
Yeah.
you go to leave a review, especially if you're on your phone, right, you can add
Yep.
pictures, which is
Yep.
great for companies,
Yep.
because they can share content. And again, it's all about what do Google's consumers want. Reading a rating is good, reading text is good, having photos is better, having
Yep.
some video, would also be good, right? So I
Yep.
think Google could easily add that. And I think the video you would want is, yeah, video testimonials, I think would be okay. But I think more the video would be about the project, or
Yep.
job, like showing you the final, your kitchen redone, or
Yep. Yep.
whatever that product, and people consuming that experience. So I can see that, yeah, it's certainly coming into play. I don't know that it relates to AI specifically. I think it's just, hey, what do Google's consumers want? And does Google want to give
Mhm.
another vehicle for people to upload more content that then adds to your Google page? And I think if it does, great. That'll just be another piece of content, on your Google page that is attached to that review and gives people more substance about the product or service.
No, thanks for that answer. That's great. And that was my natural inclination, was to go, well, listen, if they're looking for, authentic content, video, you can't fake. Well, I guess you can. There's a lot of AI tools out there to fake videos. I've seen some pretty interesting things. Well, Zach, I really appreciate your time. I know you're very busy. I'm going to be seeing you in a couple weeks. If you are looking for help with your reputation management, your Google reviews, your online review process, you need an audit of what you're currently doing, you need to check out Liftify.com. Mr. Zach Garrett, Nick, and the entire team there, I've had the pleasure of meeting and speaking to in person a couple times. I truly believe in what you guys are doing, and you guys do care about what you do, and you really do care about the results. You are providing hope for the restorers out there that feel like there's no hope in getting the reviews. And I cannot thank you enough for your time to coming on today. I'm sure the listeners got a lot of value out of this. Make sure you check out Liftify.com. He's on all the social platforms. If you're active on LinkedIn, they're always sharing different knowledge. Zach's traveling the world, doing seminars, teaching people that there is hope out there for you, regardless of what you may think or your experience in the past. Zach, again, thanks again for your time. We appreciate you. We're going to see you soon, right?
Yep. Sounds good. See you in a few weeks, Ben.
All right, Zach, have a great day. All right, everybody, that is it for this episode. We will see you next time.